Oh, you just caught me in the middle of my snack. Yeah, let's carry on with the Sentinels glazing, shall we? Before we get into Gen.G versus Sentinels on Icebox, though, we need to travel to the past to understand why Sentinels pistol round worked so well. So this is Gen.G playing against PABYBAY in Pacific in the playoffs, only 2 times before they played against Sentinels on Icebox. And they're going to run the same setup. They throw down this Viper wall, they take a knife over towards pipes to take some space, then once they get into the site, they're going to flash Dizzy combo to be able to get in towards the backside and texture dashes in some kind of direction. I'll play it out for you, but the point being, this is Gen.G's A-side pistol strat. They like running this wall that they don't normally run actually during their rifle rounds, and they mix it up by sometimes going towards A, sometimes going towards B, but the general feel of it is like they've only really got 2 strats when they run this, and one leans in one direction and one fakes and goes in the other direction. Here we see the A exec, flash, Dizzy, texture dashes in, etc, etc, people coming over to establish 410 control, and texture gets an opening pick in this example. But that's not important as to how it actually plays out, it's the read that's important. So this is the next time they played Icebox, and this time is one before the game against Sentinels. It's the same setup again. They're running this Viper wall over towards A, and they have the 2 players they need to be able to fake. They're going to run this knife over towards pipes, so it still looks like it could be the A exec, but actually these 3 sneaky little beavers are going to try to get in over towards the B side. And this one, because it's right before the game against Sentinels, this is the grand finals in Pacific, the last time that they played Icebox prior to the Zen game. I think Sentinels read into this and thought, well, they faked last time they played, they're probably going to run the just standard A exec this time, and kind of alternate between them, because this is what they showcased last time. So, moving on to the game against Sentinels, we see this anti-setup from Sen. They've got 3 players onto the A site, but crucially, John is also in a spot here where he's going to get an angle over the top of this Viper wall. When this Viper wall gets put up, there's like a small dip in it, and John gets to spot over the top. And John actually has an angle into the top of Nest, and he also has angles on top of 410, and he has angles onto people who are playing in this backside position, kind of where I think it's Zelsis is currently stud. So it's a really nice idea, and the read is perfect. If you're thinking back to that pistol round that Gen.G ran against PABYBAY, this is almost exactly the same. Round 1, Tens is ready to reflash ZEKKEN onto an angle after he takes first contact. Knife comes in, could still be a fake at this point, but now, as you start hearing people over towards pipes, flash, Dizzy, you're pretty confident it's the actual play. And look at John's position here. Tens does get caught, but John is able to see over the top of this Viper wall, picks up 1, almost got a second, things go down into a 3v3 scenario, but you've got such a health advantage. Munchkin is on 40 HP. Texture ends up getting dueled in this spot and takes quite a bit of damage. He goes down to 40 as well. Look at this health advantage that they've got with double sheriffs. Munchkin and Texture are 1-shot body shot. Dead to a sheriff, and again, Sentinels stealing that double sheriff strategy from Gen.G to be able to clean this one up. So really good understanding of what Gen.G were going to do, nice plan to work around it, and then good work, you know, staying up with the meta and learning from your opponents. And crucially, like I mentioned in the previous video, Sassy gets 4 ult points during this round. That is going to be so critical when we move forwards. If you're thinking about the biggest ults that Sentinels can have on their defense side, it's going to be, for retakes at least, Sassy's ultimate for plant denial and retakes, and Zelsis' ultimate for the lockdown, in my opinion anyway. So now we move on to round 2, and round 2 ends up actually being quite important because it gets Sassy more of these ult points. Look at him, greeding for the ult orb. How are Gen.G supposed to punish this? They don't have Sova, which means that they don't have Molly shock combos. They can't throw a snakebite down here and follow up with a shock dart, and if they only throw a snakebite, Sassy might still be able to greed for it, and it's not the best usage of that piece of utility that Karen's usually going to want to hold on to. Other pieces of util, like Mosh, like Fragment Grenade, they just don't work quickly enough to be able to deny this position. So Sen put a premium on Sassy greeding these ult orbs. He gets 3 ults in this half, and he plays a phenomenal game on top of that as well. One of the best that I've seen from Sassy. We'll talk about more of that later on. So Sassy now has 5 ult points after 3 kills, ult orb, defuse. He's then going to get a kill and a death, so he's super close to getting his ult online for a crucial bonus that's going to come up here. I'm going to kind of skip through some of this just to show you Sassy's kill, Sassy's death. It's a little labored, and Meteor still puts up some good resistance, so it's not the cleanest second round in the world. It comes down to a 1v1 that Zellsis has to win. But, you know, Karen's super weak, and it doesn't end up really being that difficult for him. So let's move along to round 3 here. It is quite a long clutch, to be honest, this final moment. But Zellsis ends up winning it with movement and just relying on the run and gun. Again in this round, round 3, Sassy's one away from his Hunter's Fury. Very, very poor weaponry. I mean, look at the eco disadvantage that Sentinels are in because of all of that great work from Meteor and a little bit from Karen in the previous round. And yet they're still going to win this bonus. They're still going to win with 2 Sheriffs, a Classic, a Marshal, and a Spectre. Like, this is egregious from Gen.G that they allow this to slip, but how does it happen? Because they can't deny this ult orb. Sassy greeds for it again. He gets the Sova ult online. This then devolves into a bit of a 2v3 retake scenario. Gen.G is still able to get in onto the site fairly cleanly. They take down ZEKKEN, take a little bit of damage.
Gen.G with no real intentions of the rest of the map. They're all here towards A.
Should have been a punish there, probably onto 10s. But what I want to point out in this spot is how kind of the Sova ultimate in this position and the players on Gen.G just end up getting scattered because of it. Lucky is hit by a piece of utility and has to backpedal. The plant hasn't even gone down at this point. Sentinels are already committing to try to cause chaos in Gen.G's post-plant positioning. Sova ult comes through, Meteor gets traded, but these trades are still going nicely for Gen.G. They're still 3-2 up. The Sova ult has allowed them to get in and do some damage, so health advantage is still in favor of these 2 players on Sentinels, but they've got double Sheriffs to work with. Having said that, Texture will die to one shot, and as will Karen, so it's still absolutely doable because they've applied so much pressure to the plant.
A lot of players low right now.
And I want to showcase how scattered the Gen.G players are still in this position.
Light armor on John and Saucy.
Can they settle this?
Gen.G aren't set up to break this recon dart. Texture doesn't break this. Texture then is playing in front of the wall while the other 2 are behind the wall. So Texture is completely isolated in this spot against these 2 players. He's not ready for Viper Wall and he's not ready for recon.
Far up here. Munchkin has a knife too.
Tags. Oh, can't connect.
And then the Sen players win 2 fantastic 1v1s to be able to put Texture alone in a 1v2. And I think this starts another narrative during Icebox, which was that the Sen individuals were way better than the Gen.G individuals on this map. Maybe some part of that was the mentality of realizing that Gen.G that they were in danger of getting grouped, but look how well Sassy plays that as well, anticipating that Texture was going to go up top, beating him to the punch, and being able to win that. I'm going to move us forward to round 6 to showcase how one duel can spiral out of control. To showcase the opposite of what I was talking about on Lotus. On Lotus, I was talking a lot about how strategy can influence gunfights. You have bad strats, you take bad gunfights. This round, I want to showcase how having a bad fight can snowball out of your control. Because once that player is alive, they can have so much more impact than the player that died, which is super obvious. But it's, I think, underrated the component of how much this can sometimes have influence. You see, Viper Wall goes up, Sentinels getting into position. Again, Gen.G not quite ready for that, but this is the kill I want to point towards. Sassy's kill here onto Meteor. Now, normally Meteor is going to be crazy good for these kind of spots. We'll play it again with focus onto Meteor. So, Sentinels are taking contact over towards this kind of area with 10s, and Sassy's supposed to be monitoring the other side. Meteor's going to swing around the back and try to peek him from the other side of Nest. And normally, you give me a duel at any point in the year between Meteor and Sassy. Meteor is winning that one. I would say probably 80% of the time. It hasn't been a great year for Sassy, and it's been an amazing year for Meteor. But in this game, Sassy was playing like, dude, like 2022 champs again. He wins this duel onto Meteor, which is absolutely crucial, because then that allows him to back off and shoot this shock dart. This shock dart lands onto Karen's position over towards default. And guess who else is getting involved? Gen.G, who from his position on top of ramp is spamming through screens to try to follow up on this shock dart damage. So shock dart damage comes through onto Karin, and I'm just going to kind of play this forward like one frame at a time so you guys see what happens here. Karin's taken really low by that shock dart. You see his health goes down to like, I don't know, 20, 30, something like this. And then the spam is coming through from Gen.G from on top of that boiler ramp through screens to take that kill. Beautiful, beautiful punish onto a team trying to get the plant down in their second cycle. Sentinels are so well prepared for this kind of stuff, completely catching them. Is there a little bit of luck involved? Sure, but by even going for that is beautiful.
I mean, they just continue to crumble. It's just
and if Meteor had been able to get the kill on Sassy, that's another kill that never happens. I mean, outside of Gen.G like catching all headshots through screens or something, spam kills like that are just not going to happen without the shot. There's a recon finally aware of and broken by Munchkin, but to be honest, it feels too little too late in this round, but they activate the generational curse by allowing Texture to ace. So Sentinels do eventually lose this round, but if you've been following Gen.G at all, you knew it was going to be a bad sign if Texture got his ace. The worst possible time to break the 4K curse. Soon as Gen.G got this, their first ace on Texture since April, you knew it was chalked. You knew it was chalked. Uh-oh. Let's move forward now to round 10, which is another example that I want to take a look at of basically how one team winning a lot of gunfights puts a bit of psychological fear in the minds of their opponent. We're on round 9 here. Let's go forwards to round 10. Here we are at round 10. Okay, so we're going to be taking a look here at this situation that Karin finds himself in. So Gen.G on the attack, they've made a bit of a recovery. It's 4-5 at the moment, and they're getting into the B site. Zelsis has double nanoswarm. He recognizes that they're going to go, because they haven't tapped yet, he recognizes they're going to go for a flash dizzy combo through this wall. Beautiful protocol from Zelsis. He backs up. This position at top kitchen is the best way of dealing with flash dizzies through the wall and snowman pressure. And he even throws down a nanoswarm to try to deny a plant and try to deny any follow-up from this to isolate Texture. So now Texture's fairly isolated with this flash and dash play. The others can't really follow up because of Zelsis' beautiful nanoswarm. And he's also going to be able to deny this plant that comes down as well. Kind of nice dual-purpose nano. Beautiful protocol from Zelsis in this round to deal with Gen.G's a fairly common strat of flash dizzy combo into snowman. You'll see teams that aren't aware of this kind of stuff holding people in like this spot, even this spot deep on nest. These are all much worse than what Zelsis did. So nanoswarm is thrown down. Karin takes a little bit of damage from it. Plant is denied. Karin gets the kill onto Gen.G. Now Zelsis also just threw his second nanoswarm. We actually get a peek of it just around here. Here you can see him throwing this second nano. So this is the second nanoswarm that he's throwing down onto that plant position again. And this ends up killing Karin in this spot. Now, Karin doesn't really have a huge amount of time to be able to break it at his feet, but he dies to the nano because he's not really that confident in swinging orange. He could, in that moment, try to swing orange really aggressively, but I think he's worried about taking another fight and there potentially being another player ready to trade him. So he ends up being caught by that. Beautiful play by Zelsis. Really nicely done. And what you see Texture do is get into the same position, stick the plant, and go for the swing I was just saying that Karin didn't go for. He gets murked by ZEKKEN. ZEKKEN and Sassy have a high-low setup. Look at this. High-low setup on top of Tube right now. Sassy is underneath Tube and ZEKKEN's on top of it, both facing into the player that gets the plant and has to swing out of that position. Obviously, Karin can't put up his Viper Wall anymore. He's dead. So, the Sentinels are just setting up such impossible situations that normally throughout this year Gen.G have been able to frag their way out of. You get Gen.G in a difficult spot, they shoot their way out of these positions. But today they couldn't manage it. Sentinels just had too much synergy between the players.
Now 2v2. Tens and Sassy.
So let's move on to round 11 here. This 2v2 does end up going the way of Gen.G in the end. Doesn't matter. We're talking about who has the best gameplay. We're not talking about who puts the rounds on the board. It's important not to be results-based with the analysis. So let's move forward to round 11.
From tens as well.
So much space.
In this round, the plant ends up getting mollied.
Yeah, but the defense is starting to...
And Texture and Karen are going to double swing onto Zelsis. So, again, Zelsis is using his Nanoswarm utility really well. He's got one pre-placed this time instead of holding both of them, but he uses it nicely to deny the plant coming through. So now Lakia is going to have to move this plant position around, and they need to apply some pressure here to Orange to get the plant down. So they need to fight over towards Orange. So Texture's going to swing from this side. Karen's going to swing from this side. You've got two of your best aimers, two of the best players in the world. I mean, probably, yeah, top 10 players easily, top 5 players probably in the world, both swinging Zelsis in this moment. Look how he deals with it. He isolates this situation beautifully. Plant goes down. He picks off Texture, calls for reinforcements, and Sassy's there. The Flash is there. They destroy Texture and Karen, who were trying to set up a double swing, grab Zelsis really quickly, and reset into post-plant positions. The smallest details in terms of who wins a duel, and also how fast they are at being able to isolate these spots, the Sentinels players were better today. They were just better. Massive player advantage in this spot, 5v3, and that single situation really wins it for them. So now round 12. This is Sassy using his third Hunter's Fury of the half, because not only has he been fragging, he's also been ult farming over towards A constantly. Gen.G do not have an answer, like I said, right from the pistol to this strategy. And he's going to use it. He's going to rip it around now, I think. Yeah, he goes for the drone. Gets a tag onto Texture, goes for it, and actually ends up picking Lakia in this moment instead because he realizes he doesn't want to ult the Jet. Lakia's movement, as I said in my previous video, is a big weakness of his that he could improve on, and he ends up getting picked out here. So another great pick to kind of open up a big round in a situation where he's been able to get 3 Sova ults online in a defensive half. Let's move on to talk about the attack side, because I want to give John Cutie his IGLing props again. Most of the defense side, I feel, came down to having Sentinels having better micro play, but Sentinels still demonstrated this amazing macro play that they've had on their attack side too. This one is a bit more simple. This is an attack strategy where honestly it looks similar to Gen.G's attack strat. Gen.G are going to try to force the fight early on. Lakia ends up getting caught in his position over towards Maze, and Sentinels snowball forward with trades in this position. So Lakia shouldn't really be getting caught in that spot in my opinion, but he does. Tens is sharp with it. ZEKKEN with a phenomenal 180 trade kill there onto Texture as well. Boils down into a 2v2 where you might say that Meteor and Karen have the advantage, but Sentinels call a really, really nice pivot over towards the B site in this position, and they're looking good for it. I mean, if we move it along as well, this kill ends up really sealing the round. Sassy, who's already got 13 kills in 13 rounds, puts it up to 14 across 13 rounds, having over 1 kill per round on Sova for a player that's been your weakest fragger over the course of this year. A phenomenal overperformance from Sassy, exactly when it matters. Classic Sassy. You know, champion step up. This is a reason that he won the Champions Trophy before. So let's move on to the bonus round for Sentinels, because this is where John Cutie's IGLing is really masterful again. So what they're going to do in this round is that they're going to have a bunch of mid pressure to fake and draw people into mid. When you as the attackers put pressure in mid and you do stuff like break a turret boiler, break a turret orange, break an alarm bot that is in mid, put smokes up here. I mean, depending on what comp you're running, you might smoke off boiler or something as well if you're running like a double smoke comp or a harbor or something. But, you know, by applying mid pressure, you're going to pull B players in to watch from orange. You're going to pull A players to watch the A split. You're going to keep players anchored over towards mid. And you're going to turn what would have been a fairly standard like 2-1-2, let's say, defensive setup into a 1-3-1 defensive setup. In this specific instance, they've got a 1-1-3 defensive setup running, and it's going to pull players off the A site to make it easier to walk in and get the plant down. Remember that so much of the meta these days is about plant denial. Because if you deny the plant going down, you buy tons of time for your rotates to come in. And then you have more options of going for flood rotates, for going for quick pre-takes, these kind of things. So, bit of a labored fight here, but all of this mid pressure's dragged 4 players to mid. 4 players into mid. One has even gone down, so that's the entire stack. It's only Texture that's around here. He does manage to get a kill, but he gets traded out. And you've got a 2v3 scenario where Gen.G have been super fast to react, but now are actually finding themselves overreacting to what's happening, getting into the site too early before they're set up to play off each other, and getting caught by stuff like recons. And again, John, Sassy, cleaning up in this spot. Nice macro idea from Sentinels. Good response by Gen.G to not get baited too heavily and get back to the A site quickly enough. But in all of the scattered chaos of Gen.G trying to react with enough tempo, they lost their discipline, and Sentinels were able to capitalize.
Texture, he just couldn't settle those shots.
So, let's move on to round 18. And we'll show you another beautiful fake here. So, this one makes it feel like a fake towards B. This is a blinder of a round. If you only think about one round in the future from Sentinels on Icebox, think about this one. So they go and take some B green control, right? They get the tag onto Meteor, and this is where the genius starts to happen. They throw the knife, they make a little bit of noise, and then they hide. Look at the positioning right now. In fact, I think he gets caught on the screen. Look at this. Sassy out of sight on this angle. ZEKKEN out of sight on this angle, holding for anybody walking up. TenZ out of sight as well. No players able to be seen by anyone that contact reclears here over towards B. Not a peep or a whisper. They've made it look like such a B fake. Like we were taking space in this area and now we've backed off. They're baiting Gen.G into thinking that they've disappeared here. So let's see how Gen.G respond to this.
Hunting for it, but it looks like Sen have something.
Texture's looking. All right, guys, I don't see anything. And remember what I said about Gen.G. They're willing to make reads of small pieces of detail like this. Do they have any concrete information that Sentinels aren't here? No, they don't have like a dizzy, a 0 point, a like guiding light, whatever it might be, a drone. They don't have any hard util to tell them Sentinels have gone. But just by not seeing anybody, Munchkin is confident enough to start rotating himself away, leave Texture posted on B, and start to reinforce the A site. And that's what he does. He leaves Texture posted, and this would be a good call a lot of the time. A huge amount of the time, this would be a good call from Munchkin. But this time, Sentinels are baiting Munchkin into making this kind of maneuver. Look how alone Texture is when they finally spring the trap. Here, when he finally gets double swung by Sassy and by ZEKKEN, they fucking know he's upping alone on this line. And look how far away the nearest player is. They're miles away from him. There is no hope for Texture getting bailed out of this spot. Even if he hit one, he's going to get run down. He doesn't hit one. He gets caught. Beautiful masterpiece of a round from Sentinels. They then flash recon just to make sure in case there's a second player still around here, and they're in onto the B site. Gen.G are fast. As soon as Texture realizes that he's been double swung, Gen.G are right back into it. But then individuals take over again. TenZ has pushed himself up to danger, manages to get 2 in this position and bring things into a 3v2 post plant where Sentinels should be pretty heavily favored. Zelsis ends up winning a clutch in this position after Munchkin does a great job, actually, and John Cutie gets caught by that. And another situation where you often expect the Gen.G players to come out on top, and yet Sentinels, Zelsis is able to get this one and pull it across the line. Did it take a lot of effort to be able to convert that? Yes, because Gen.G are still a very good team. But Sentinels are pulling out beautiful strategies and still being able to get the, like, aim skill from TenZ, clutch factor from Zelsis, individuals that haven't really been stepping up all year, like Sassy stepping up. Like, everything was working for Sentinels in this game. And I just want to end with round 19, which was a Sen fake over towards B. So remember what they just did, where they made it feel like a fake, but it wasn't a fake. This time, it feels like a fake. It is a fake. So Gen.G are going to push up over here towards B, over towards A, sorry, getting posted over towards Belt. Sentinels are going to start to take space over towards B in this spot. So we'll skip things forward until they actually go for it. But here we go. Drone comes through over towards B once they've controlled that aggression.
A red wall across the board. Nobody is really pushing.
And look at the pull. They're starting to come back over towards the B site because they're worried about the same strategy that Sentinels ran in the previous round. But this time, instead of contact re-clearing, they're going to flash re-clear. They're going to use flash. They're going to use Dizzy. They're going to get info in this position. But they're too slow. By the time they do that, if we pull things back 5 seconds to when they were actually going for that, Sentinels have used this timing of them re-clearing B to hit over towards A. These are honestly not that complex strategies, but the way in which they weave them together so they play off each other and condition their opponent and get value out of that is really nice IGLing from John Cutie. They also lead with the null command so Texture can't dash away. So again, they found the site that Texture's on, they're running into him instead of away from him, but they're making it super difficult for Texture to play by double swinging him in the previous round when he thought that there wasn't really anybody there. And now here, they're just going to run him down where he can't dash and can't use Cloudburst. He whiffs the kill onto ZEKKEN, but he was definitely, at best, only going 1-for-1 in that situation. One of the first whiffs that Texture's had all day long. Tens again, absolutely annihilating them, playing like a maniac today. And they get in, 5v3, massive economy advantage as well, and Sentinels easily able to close this one out with a pit on top of it as well. This was a phenomenal performance from Sentinels. Are we going to see this kind of stuff constantly from them? I'm not confident enough to say that. Are we always going to see Sassy playing at this level throughout Champions? If he does, it might make the difference for Sen. Are we going to see John always call like this? I think so. I think John's calling suffered from changing their comps and adding in the deadlock and that kind of stuff. But I think now that they're back to their more standard compositions, John's going to be able to play around with that. And one of the things I respect the most about John is he puts in huge amounts of prep work. You can tell it with a lot of the behind-the-scenes content and the way he talks about his opponents. He knows what they're going to do. He knows their play styles. And are they always going to catch their opponents on days where they're outperforming them, where Tens is better than Charon and Meteor and Sassy's winning duels against Meteor consistently, that kind of thing? Maybe. I mean, they've taken down a real heavy hitter here in Gen.G. There aren't too many other teams in the world who frag like Gen.G. Fnatic, Heretics, you know, maybe Lev on a great day. But Sen can go toe-to-toe with any of them depending on the form, and at the moment, the form is looking incredible. So that's what I want to end with here, a little bit of hope. I don't feel like Gen.G played too badly, but they did get outperformed in this match very consistently by Sentinels in basically every department of the game. Would Gen.G have put up a better match on another day? Yeah, absolutely. In a rematch, would you expect Gen.G to be more prepped, to change things up, and to fight back against Sentinels? Absolutely. But should you poo-poo what Sentinels accomplished as just a bad day for Gen.G? Get the fuck out of here. Buy the fucking bundle.